Hello and bonjour. Just another little Paris transport news update today, but it's quite a big piece of news, and that's why I've brought you all to see a large warehouse in the southern Parisian suburb of Villeneuve-Saint-Georges. Obviously though, this is not just any old warehouse, because inside this building is the historic collection of the RATP, the Paris Public Transport Company. And it really is the historic collection of Paris public transport. You've got everything in here, from an original wooden M1 metro of 1900 to the legendary Sprague-Thomson metro that served on the network for 75 years between 1908 and 1983, to a whole bunch of other more modern metros, plus an enormous collection of other vehicles, including historic buses, trams, and suburban trains. It is the number one place to see if you are a public transport nerd in Paris. There's just one problem. It's not open to the public. For more than a decade now, the historic collection has been stored inside this building behind closed doors. I asked someone at the RATP why they don't open it as a museum, and they said they cannot legally do that because the building doesn't meet the required regulations. In other words, the only chance you ever get to see the collection is if you come here on one of the 2 or 3 special open days they organise per year. And good luck finding yourself a ticket to one of those. They usually get snapped up within seconds. So, stupid question, why don't they just move all of these vehicles into a proper museum where people could actually go and see them? Well, that's the other problem. Where exactly? Unlike London, Berlin, Vienna, Stockholm, Oslo, Prague, Budapest, Coventry, there is no transport museum in Paris. The closest thing is the lovely independent volunteer-run Museum of Urban Transport out in the eastern suburb of Chelles. But even that is only open 2 days a month and only in the summer. It feels like there's a massive missed opportunity here for a permanent museum somewhere in the centre. Which is why I am delighted to bring you the news that Paris is finally getting its very own full-time, official transport museum. Although, like most public transport, we are going to have to wait for it. The announcement was made a few weeks ago by former Prime Minister of France and current President of the RATP, Jean Castex, and I can non-exclusively reveal that he's planning to house the museum inside that big complex behind me. That big complex behind me is a major bus depot and maintenance works on the northern edge of the 18th arrondissement, and it's inside this enormous old maintenance hall that they're planning to house the future museum. It needs to be pretty enormous because it's going to be home to something like 100 different vehicles from the historic collection, plus what the RATP describe as 5,000 objects of all types, by which I guess they mean old maps, signs, tickets, ticket machines, that type of object. So when exactly can we expect this new transport museum to open? Well, there is an awful lot of work to do before this site is anywhere near ready to open to the public. It's going to take years before it's even ready to house the vehicles, and they reckon it'll take another 1.5 years on top of that just to move the vehicles here from the warehouse down in Villeneuve-Saint-Georges. After that, there's still more work to be done before it can open as a museum, and as a result, the current projected opening date is sometime before the end of 2032. So, good news, Paris is finally getting a transport museum. Bad news, the world might end before it opens. But overall, good news. And if you'd like to visit the Paris Transport Museum in the future, the nearest metro stop will be either Simplon or Porte de Clignancourt at the northern end of Line 4. But until then, don't forget you can always go to the Museum of Urban Transport in Chelles, if you're here on the first or third Saturday of the month between March and October, and I believe the open days at Villeneuve-Saint-Georges will continue for a few more years yet before all the vehicles make the big move. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.